Greetings, my beautiful people, Mini Movies Recaps here. Today I will recap a 2022 movie title, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Spoiler ahead, enjoy. The movie opens with a DVD playing that recaps the events of the original film. Therein, a group of teens is slaughtered when they meet a murderous family living in rural Texas. The only survivor was a young woman named Sally Hardesty. After she escaped, the chainsaw-wielding killer nicknamed Leatherface, who wore the faces of his victims, removed his mask and disappeared. The DVD is playing in a gas station, watched by a young woman named Lila. Lila asks the gas station attendant what happened to Sally. The attendant says she spent her life trying to find the killer of her family and friends. Lila goes outside to join her sister Melody Mel. The girls are traveling with Melody's friend Dante and his girlfriend Ruth. They are heading to an abandoned Texas town named Harlow. Dante, a social media influencer, bought the town at a bankruptcy sale. He plans to sell the properties to wealthy young adults so they can build a new, more idyllic, modern community. As they drive to Harlow, they get in an argument with an angry Texan named Richter and meet the two police officers with jurisdiction over the town. The Texans are all suspicious of Dante's plans for the town. When the four arrive in Harlow, they learn that the contractor in charge of restoring the buildings is Richter. Later, they run into an old woman named Mrs. MC still living in the town at an orphanage she used to run. Mrs. MC claims that she paid off her debt to the bank and is still the rightful owner of her orphanage. Offended by her racially insensitive statements, and her family's Confederate lineage, and concerned she will ruin his plans for the town, Dante calls the cops to evict her. As the officers escort Mrs. MC out of the house, she suffers a medical episode. A huge man walks down the stairs to help her. MC explains that this man is her last orphan and has been living with her for years. The man, the officers, Mrs. MC, and Ruth all get into the ambulance to escort Mrs. MC to a hospital. Although Mel and Lila are upset by how Dante handled the encounter, Dante remains focused on proceeding with the auction. A party bus with wealthy, young investors arrives as the ambulance pulls away. Lila wanders through the town and finds Richter working in his shop. She notices he owns an assault weapon and reveals that she is the survivor of a mass school shooting. Lila confides that she has survivor's guilt, saying everyone expects great things from her but that she doesn't think she has anything to offer. Meanwhile, in the ambulance, Mrs. MC passes away and Ruth texts Dante the bad news. The man begins acting violently in his grief. The officer in the back with him tries to take out his gun. But the man snaps the officer's hand off his arm and then stabs the officer in the throat with the officer's own exposed arm bones. He then shoots the other officer and the ambulance crashes into abandoned farm equipment. Back in town, Richter learns about Mrs. MC's eviction and passing. He steals the keys for Dante's car and the party bus, saying he will only return them if Dante can prove he is the rightful owner of the orphanage. Dante looks through his files and can't find the deed. Mel, now upset that they may have treated Mrs. MC unfairly and inadvertently killed her, insists they look through her house to see if she has the deed as she claimed. At the crash site, Ruth regains consciousness. She sees in the side mirror that the large man is scraping the face off of Mrs. MC's body and applies it to his own. This man is Leatherface. She takes the police radio and tries to radio for help, but the only person who hears her is the gas station attendant. Leatherface then kills the other officer he shot earlier by crushing his head with Mrs. MC's oxygen tank. Although Ruth tries to play dead and later attempts to escape, Leatherface discovers Ruth is alive and kills her by slitting open her stomach with a knife. Leatherface then begins walking back to Harlow. The gas station attendant meanwhile calls his old friend Sally Hardesty, now an old woman. Sally grabs a stash of weapons and begins driving to Harlow. Leatherface arrives back at his orphanage home where Dante and Mel have split up to search for the deed, with Mel having found the deed upstairs, proving Mrs. MC was the rightful owner after all. Leatherface attacks Dante and chops his face apart with a meat cleaver. He then heads upstairs where Mel hides under a bed. Leatherface sits down and begins applying makeup to his mask when he hears the sounds of partygoers outside. He sees the investors celebrating and flies into a rage. Leatherface retrieves a sledgehammer and begins smashing in the wall of the bedroom. Inside is his old chainsaw. Although maimed, Dante is still barely alive. He stumbles outside where he runs into Richter and one of the partygoers. He warns them about Leatherface before dying from his wounds. Richter grabs a handgun and walks towards the orphanage while the partygoer forces Lila and all the investors back on the party bus. Richter enters the orphanage and Leatherface hides behind a door to ambush him. Mel is able to tilt a nearby mirror so that Richter can see Leatherface hiding. The two get in a fight, but Leatherface gets the upper hand when he hits Richter in the knee with a sledgehammer. Leatherface impales Richter on a shard of glass and Richter collapses to the floor where he sees Mel hiding under the bed. Richter tosses the keys to the vehicles to Mel before Leatherface finishes him off by bashing Richter's head in with the sledgehammer. On her drive, Sally sees the ambulance crash site. She stops to investigate and finds that Leatherface made Mrs. MC's corpse into a grotesque memorial. Meanwhile, Lila gets off the bus to search for Mel and finds Dante's corpse. When Leatherface goes into another room to repair his chainsaw, Mel sneaks out and tries to make it to the exit. Leatherface catches her and they tussle, with Mel falling through the floorboards of the old building. As she makes her way through the crawlspace, Leatherface uses his now functional chainsaw to try and rip her apart through the floorboards. Mel escapes when Lila hears the commotion and is able to break open a basement window for Mel to crawl through. The sisters flee to the bus with the keys and demand the driver leave immediately. The bus begins moving but mysteriously stalls out. The driver gets out to investigate. And then his severed head is thrown back inside the bus by Leatherface. The investors immediately pull out their phones and begin recording Leatherface, threatening to cancel the killer. Leatherface responds by revving his chainsaw and killing them all. Lila and Mel manage to escape the slaughter through an emergency exit in the ceiling and begin running away. They see a car idling in town and jump inside. They find the car is driven by Sally, who refuses to leave. Instead, Sally gets out and pursues Leatherface back to the orphanage. Inside, Sally finds her old tormentor. She holds a shotgun to his head and demands he acknowledge who she is and what he did to her family and friends. Leatherface says nothing, merely pushing his way past Sally when he hears Mel and Lila outside. Realizing that Leatherface either doesn't remember or no longer cares about her, Sally attacks and tosses her car keys to the girls. Sally and Leatherface fight. Though she grazes him with a shot and manages to stab him in the stomach, Leatherface stabs her clean through the gut with his chainsaw. Leatherface lifts Sally off the ground so she sinks further onto his saw blade before flinging her into a pile of trash. Mel tries to run Leatherface down with the car, but Leatherface dodges and Mel crashes. Mel is impaled through the leg and unable to escape as Lila runs off without her. Leatherface begins slowly walking towards Mel, ignoring Mel's apologies about what happened to Mrs. MC. Lila returns with Richter's assault rifle but doesn't know how to use it. Leatherface chases Lila and is shot several times by a still alive Sally when they get outside. A wounded Leatherface runs into a nearby abandoned theater. Lila goes to Sally, who says that if Lila runs, she will forever be haunted by Leatherface, just like Sally was. Lila decides to stay and fight, as Sally passes away. She takes the shotgun and enters the theater. Meanwhile, Mel pulls out the rod that pinned her leg to the crashed vehicle. Leatherface manages to lure Lila into an ambush and the two tumble into a pit filled with water. Lila emerges first, but Leatherface gets out and grabs her before she can reach the shotgun she dropped. Before Leatherface can kill Lila, Mel jumps on his back. This gives Lila the time she needs to grab the shotgun and shoot Leatherface twice. Mel then grabs Leatherface's chainsaw and slices him in the throat and face. The psychopath falls into the pit and the sisters watch him sink to the bottom before embracing each other. The women get into a self-driving car and engage the autopilot. As the car begins pulling out of Harlow, Leatherface mysteriously shows up and breaks the passenger side window to drag Mel outside the car. As the car continues to drive away, a weeping Lila screams as Leatherface decapitates Mel with his chainsaw. Leatherface then begins dancing with Mel's severed head and his beloved chainsaw. In a post-credit scene, Leatherface walks down a dirt path towards the home he grew up in and where he killed Sally's family. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy the recap, subscribe if you are new here, and check out our channel for more awesome videos.